Good evening. Welcome to the June 4th edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. For those in the audience, there are copies of the agenda on either side of the room. For those watching at home, you've got a little cooler experience. It's online. We're live with links, which will take you to a lot more information. Before we get started, let's all join together in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
April, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Commissioner Colavani.
Here.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit.
Here.
Commissioner Wallace.
Here.
Commissioner Earl. Here. Commissioner Jose.
Here.
Mayor Barnett.
Here. We are on to item 3, previous council meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve previous minutes?
Mayor Barnett, I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Tonight we have 2 proclamations, a couple of fun events or groups that we're going to recognize tonight. The first is Garden Week. Members of the Downers Grove Garden Club are here this evening. So let me read this, and then if you guys would come up in just a moment, and we'll present this to you. Whereas the Garden Club of Downers Grove is celebrating its 92nd anniversary, and whereas the Garden Club of Downers Grove was founded on February 28, 1927, and Mrs. M.L. Puffer was elected president, and Mrs. Lyman was elected wildflower and conservation chairman, and whereas the objectives of the club remain the same today as in 1927, that is, the advancement of gardening, development of home grounds, and furthering village beautification to stimulate an interest in cooperative gardening and to aid in the protection of forest, wildflowers, and birds. And whereas, over these years, the Garden Club has planted flowers, bulbs, trees, and bushes at nearly every park and school in the village, as well as the library, the Main Street Cemetery, Maple Grove Forest Preserve, and the American Legion. And whereas the Garden Club of Downers Grove is a charter member of the Garden Clubs of Illinois and the National Garden Clubs, and whereas scholarship awards are given each year to horticulture students at the University of Illinois, now therefore I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim the week of June 2nd through 8th, 2019 as National Garden Week in the Village of Downers Grove, and congratulate the Garden Club of Downers Grove on their accomplishments and wish them much continued success. Dated this 4th day of June, 2019, Downers Grove, Illinois. Please come on up.
That's what we have up for.
Some on this side too. Because a whole bunch of okay, that's awesome.
Thank you very much.
He's trying. There's the black button first, and then there's the silver button.
I needed that too.
Okay. Take 2, they're small. Thank you so much.
On this seat, you've got like a 90% chance of getting these pictures.
Okay, moving on to National Safety Month. Whereas National Safety Month focuses on reducing leading causes of injury and death at work, on the road, and in our homes and communities. Whereas each year more than 26 million Americans suffer disabling injuries. And whereas the goal of the National Safety Council is to raise public awareness and seek opportunities to educate Americans about these alarming and preventable mishaps through education. And whereas the support and observance of National Safety Month, employers help to reverse the increase in accidental injuries and deaths. And whereas the Village of Downers Grove supports national safety efforts and has taken a proactive stance in providing a safe and healthy work environment for its employees through the formation of the Strategic Risk Team and Executive Safety Committee. And whereas the Strategic Risk Team and Executive Safety Committee, under the guidance of the Risk Management Division, works to assure the safety of all Village of Downers Grove employees by setting and enforcing standards, providing training, outreach, and education, and encouraging continual improvement in workplace safety and health. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim June as National Safety Month in the Village of Downers Grove, and encourage all employees and citizens to participate in raising their awareness in the practice of safe and healthy behaviors in all aspects of their lives. Dated this 4th day of June, 2019, at Downers Grove, Illinois. Here this evening to accept this proclamation is Shanae Mackey, our Risk Manager. Shanae?
If I could, Mayor, just wanted to chime in. I want to personally thank Shanae for her leadership efforts. She has been a tremendous leader in efforts to make Downers Grove a safer work environment, improve the wellness of our employees and coworkers, and that translates into happy, healthy workers, and it also translates into better stewardship of our own tax dollars. So thank you to Shanae and your leadership.
Thank you, Shanae.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Dave. That takes us to the first public comment section of tonight's meeting. Agenda item number 5 is reserved for public comments of a general nature. As we go through other agenda items for the evening, there'll be other opportunities to speak specifically to those items. Is there anybody here this evening with a general comment? Please go ahead up to the podium. Be sure to give us your name, address.
Hi, my name is Preston Straub. You may remember I spoke a couple of weeks ago. Brought to your attention an issue that I thought needed to be looked at regarding the Building Board of Appeals. And subsequent to that, we met with a few department heads in the village, which I don't feel was, didn't really answer the question. And so what I wanted to see tonight is there's a way that some kind of independent look could be taken, some kind of independent review, personnel, committee, whatever, even yourselves, since there seems to be an apparent lack of a true appeals board, which is not supposed to be employees of the village. I was hoping to get your advice tonight on how I could get you to maybe take a further look at some of the things that I think that you should be aware of. I don't think some of the things that are going on in the village are correct, and I think they need to be reviewed, and that's why I'm here tonight, hoping that I could get you to possibly put this on your agenda or look at it a little closer, because I'm really not versed in what goes on in Downers Grove, but as I said last time, since you annexed us, we're in the village, so now I have to deal with what I have to deal with. Hopefully you can appreciate that. And so, but I'm not up on all the procedures, and I've tried to go to this department and that department to get answers, and it really hasn't resulted in what I think are the correct results, and I really do think you need to take a look at what I want to show you. And so that's why I'm here. I won't take up any more of your time other than to see if there's a way that we could either have this put on your agenda so I could either show you some things regarding the procedures that are supposed to go to this Board of Appeals and what have you.
So,
Did I make sense, or was I rambling?
yeah, no, it made sense.
Okay,
But
good.
my understanding is that this situation, there's a specific situation in mind that's currently in the courts. That's my understanding of the situation, right?
That's part of it, but that's not the whole issue, because these issues aren't going to go away.
So what we would,
This affects everybody
Sure.
in the village.
so with this currently running through the courts, the current situation, we're going to not litigate that here. We're going to let the
I'm
courts
not
handle that.
trying to do that here.
What we'd welcome, I think, is after that's sorted out, any sort of additional commentary from yourself or review of that process, things you like, you didn't like, we certainly welcome that kind of an input. But because that situation is in the courts, we want to not address that here. So until that's sorted out, I think this group will not be getting into any other subjects. But we'd certainly welcome.
That's okay.
We'd welcome input as to what you liked and didn't like and how it went, and you think there were failures on our part, we certainly want to hear about them.
Absolutely.
But beyond sort of just providing that input, we're not going to get into it until the courts are sorted.
But you will acknowledge that that appeals board does not exist, correct?
I don't know enough about it. What I know is that the situation extends back, I think, a couple of years and is currently in the courts. That's the extent of my knowledge of it at this point. And so beyond that, I can't comment any further. And frankly, I wouldn't want to, because once it's beyond this body and once it's beyond your village council and into the court system, there's a protocol for that as well. Certain processes that have to be followed, individuals that are supposed to be part of the public record and not. So we'd be respectful of that and not get into it any more than that.
Okay. But you would agree to look at it in the future?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's fair enough. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming, even though it's not the most fun thing.
Well, hey, somebody's got to do it.
Please.
Good evening. My name is June Vandervest. I live at 5912 Brookbank Road in Downers Grove, and I want to thank the village for punching through our street, and it's been a delight after waiting for something like 15 years for it to happen. We're so thrilled that we now have a street and sidewalk that we can walk on. And I did want to just ask if someone could do a simple traffic study there. However, now the word is out that this is the new way to take a shortcut and avoid Main Street. And not only do neighborhood people and God knows who else, but school buses are now making the turn to go south, and they're flying at more than, acceptable speed limits. And this is happening day, evening, morning, et cetera. So that might be a point. I'm not asking for a stop sign, but just maybe a traffic study.
Dave, do you have an update on that?
Yes, the traffic study and traffic counts will be taking place shortly, and the results will be shared and discussed with our TAP, which our Transportation and Parking Commission, and the residents will be notified, so that work is ongoing.
Oh, that's wonderful. My other request is that my husband has been notifying, I believe it's the Public Works Department, about a couple other little minor things, and he got an answer back that the very tip of the corner of 59th and Brookbank is going to be replaced with cement. I guess during the winter, or garbage truck or somebody has kept running over this one chunk, so that's a good thing. However, his other inquiry about removing dead limbs and branches and things that were knocked down during that terrible, I would say it's about 6 weeks ago, we had a terrific windstorm, and there are a lot of debris and dead branches that have fallen in that strip where the retention pond area is. If, I don't know, why that was neglected to being picked up, but I'm sure when the grass cutting people have to come, they can't move it. Somebody's got to take care of it. So I just wanted to let you know.
We'll double check it, and if it's part of the village's responsibility, we'll make sure that it gets taken care of.
Someone did come and remove a sign that was down and laying there, and that was removed, but those big branches are still quite an eyesore.
Okay.
And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for being
Good
here.
night.
Any other public comments of a general nature? Okay, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor Barnett, I move that the council adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Moving on to the active agenda. There's one item on the active agenda tonight. Do I have a motion for ordinance 2019-8161?
Mayor Barnett, I move that the council adopt an ordinance authorizing the extension of special uses to permit construction of a drive-through restaurant facility and a fueling station at 2125 Ogden Avenue to October 31st, 2019, as presented.
Second.
Are there any council comments or discussions, questions? Anybody here from the petitioner that'd like to talk to this tonight? Go ahead, please come up to the podium.
Sean O'Leary, I represent Power Stations. I just want to commend the council for the way everything's been handled, and especially Stan Popovich has been great to work with. So we just wanted to take this time to thank Downers Grove for everything.
Great. We thank you and hope you get some progress.
Thank you.
Any other council questions? Okay. April, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Earl? Aye. Commissioner Kolovany?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. That takes us to our first reading section. The first reading section of our agenda is a little bit more like a workshop. These are items we won't be voting on tonight. We'll be learning more about and discussing together, and we would certainly welcome commentary from the audience as certain items come up if there's an interest that you have. So Dave, would you take it from there?
Thank you, Mayor Barnett. There are 6 items on tonight's first reading agenda, but generally 2 topics. The first item is a resolution accepting the comprehensive annual financial report for 2018, commonly referred to as the audit. Here to present background information on this item and to introduce the presentation from our auditor is our Finance Director, Judy Budney.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to introduce John Cutrera, Director from BKD, who's the village's audit firm. He will present the information regarding the 2018 audit in CAFR.
Good evening, Mayor, Village Council. As Judy had mentioned, I'm here tonight to go over the 2018 CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, and address any questions that you might have on all of our deliverables, which there's actually 4 of them as part of the audit process, which I'll go through. So hopefully everybody has been provided the deliverables as part of the audit process. As I mentioned, there are 4 of them. First of which I'll discuss is the CAFR. So that's the largest of the documents here, the thick report here. So not sure if everybody's had the opportunity to go through the report in its entirety. I know it's a very large document, so I could definitely highlight some of the key items there and address any questions you might have. I'll start that by starting on page 1 of the report. Now, it's actually not labeled page 1 of the report, but it's the beginning of the financial section here of the report. And you'll notice that this page is on BKD letterhead. So the CAFR is the responsibility of village management. Our responsibility as part of the audit process is to provide our opinion on whether the financial statements are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. I'm happy to report that we've issued an unmodified or a clean opinion in the current year. So this is no different than the opinion that we've provided in the prior year, so obviously good news from that perspective. I will just point out, though, if you were to compare this opinion page to the opinion that we provided in the prior year, that there is a new paragraph here under our opinion, which is an emphasis of matter paragraph. And really this emphasis of matter paragraph was simply added to emphasize the fact that the village implemented a fairly significant accounting standard this year, which is GASB statement number 75, and deals with your total liability as it relates to your other post-employment benefits. So that's all that emphasis of matter paragraph is alluding to. Directly following the auditor's opinion is management's discussion and analysis. So again, I mentioned, it's a very large document. If you haven't had a chance to read the entire document, I would strongly suggest that you get into the MD&A, which is going to be just a nice high-level executive summary. This is written by management and just really provide some discussion and provide some context as to some of the financial statement balances in the current year. With that, I'll flip over to page 3.1, which is the start of the basic financial statements. Won't spend a whole heck of a lot of time in here unless there are specific questions, but just want to point out a few things. So page 3.1 is your statement of net position. This is the entity-wide, full government-wide statement. So this encompasses all of the village's funds broken out by either governmental activities or business-type activities. And we'll just point out your net position down there at the bottom. Most of your net position is tied up in your capital assets. So that's your net investment in capital asset number of $83 million for governmental activities, $44 million for business type activities. Your unrestricted net deficit there is $68 million, and that's primarily related to pension and OPEB liabilities, which I will discuss shortly. Page 3.2, just briefly again, this is the income statement for the government-wide statement, so this shows how each of your programs did on a net basis, and then adds in your general revenues to get to a total change in the current year. And just want to point out at the bottom of page 3.2, you'll notice that we make, that there's reference to a restatement, and it references you to note 13. And again, this one's really no cause for alarm. This is, again, just related to the implementation of GASB Statement 75. You had to adjust your beginning net position as a result of that implementation. And I'll point you to the direction of that footnote shortly. So page 3.3, this is going to be the more traditional governmental statements that we're used to seeing. So we have our general fund and then our major funds, and then a column summarizing all of our non-major funds. Bottom left of this page here, we see that the village has approximately $18.6 million in unassigned fund balance, so you're free to spend that money out of your general fund. And that represents about 4.5 months of your annual expenditures in the general fund, which is a pretty healthy number when compared to GFOA usually would recommend that an entity have at least 2 months of fund balance in that unrestricted category. So 4.5 months is certainly a healthy number, and that 2 months is by no means one size fits all. Obviously, each organization has to make the determination as to how that can be adjusted. Page 3.5 now is going to provide the current year activity, so your changes in fund balance for those major funds and the non-major funds in total. So we'll see at the bottom there the net change in fund balance for your general fund, pretty flat at around $77,000. Page 3.7 is the start of the business type activities. So these are your water, parking, and storm water funds, and won't get into much detail on the statement of net position. Page 3.8 is the income statement for those funds, and again, we see that restatement down at the bottom, again related to GASB 75. And also just want to point out that your change in net position for each of these funds is all positive, which is what you definitely want to see out of these funds. They want to sustain themselves. You want to be charging the users for the service and making sure that you're recouping the costs associated with providing that to your citizens. So that covers most of what I wanted to discuss on the basic financial statements. Following the basic financial statements is the notes to the financial statements. Again, a lot of information in here. Won't go through each one of them in detail, but page 363 is where you'll see that restatement and net position footnote. And this is just going to walk you through how that beginning balance adjustment was determined. It was two-part. First part was the removal of the net OPEB obligation under GASB 45. The second part of it was the addition of the total OPEB liability under GASB 75. And GASB 75 really did for retirement benefits what GASB 68 did for pensions. You may recall a few years back, more than that now, probably about 4 or 5, the village implemented GASB Statement 68, which put the full pension liability on the books of the village. So same concept here, just related to retiree health insurance. After the footnotes, that gets into the required supplemental information required by GASB. Won't get into the detail on each of these schedules, but just want to point out page 4.3 is a new schedule this year, and that's as a result of GASB statement number 75. So this is going to break out what the total OPEB liability is, broken out between the village and the library. This schedule will eventually build 10 years of data, so it'll be nice to see how your liabilities are trending year over year. And also just want to point out, same type of schedules are also reported in the RSI for your pension liabilities, starting on page 4.7, 4.8, and 4.9. That's going to be the breakout of your funded percentages for your IMRF plan, the police, and the fire plan. So the IMRF plan actually has a net pension asset this year, so no funding issues from that perspective. And as you look at the police and fire plans, 51% funded on the police side of things and 52%, so pretty comparable for the downstate pension plans there. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on the CAFR. If not, the SAS 114 letter was the next thing I wanted to just quickly go over. And what that document is just our required communication with those who are charged with governance, so obviously the village council in this situation. And really, the letter's meant to just give you an idea of how the audit went and make sure that the village council understands its responsibility in overseeing the financial reporting process of the village. So happy to report very smooth, efficient audit, I would say, this year. We were on site for field work in the middle of April. Staff was ready to go, very helpful and responsive throughout the entire audit process when we issued our opinion last week. No significant disagreements with management. There's a few footnotes that we refer you to there, mainly the pension and OPEB footnotes, and significant estimates always go into the comprehensive annual financial report. Again, those are related to retirement, post-retirement benefits, pensions, and depreciation expense. Any questions on those two documents? We also issued two opinions on the two TIFs, the Ogden and the downtown TIF. We looked at the expenditures to ensure that they're allowable and eligible in accordance with state statute. No issues from that perspective. Those were also unmodified opinions. With that, I'd be happy to address any questions at this point.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Any questions from the audience? I'll just remind everybody that this is part of the village's effort to be making sure that we're good stewards and visible and transparent to the public. These CAF reports are available online dating back to 2000. So folks could take a look not only at this current year, but look at several years, look at certainly the letters that are in there and the opinions that are in there, and try and get some sense. And what you'll come away with is that Downers Grove's Village Finance Department does a fantastic job year over year. They make us look good. They make the most of our decisions and really polish them up, and we're appreciative of that. So, Judy, to your team, thank you very much. Anybody got any additional comments or questions? Thanks for being here.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The next 5 items concern our annual water main replacement projects. We'll start with item B on the agenda, which is an ordinance authorizing a loan agreement between the Village of Downers Grove and the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. Judy Gutney will come back to the podium and give us a little more information on this item.
We are requesting the approval of a loan agreement with the IEPA in the amount of $4,689,501.43 for 2019 water main replacements that Nan will be explaining in a moment. It's going to be a 20-year loan at an interest rate of 1.84%. This loan is the 4th year of a 5-year project plan that has been already approved by the IEPA. We have previously borrowed between the years 2016 and 2018 a little over $6.5 million, bringing the total with this loan to $11.3 million. In addition, in accordance with the master loan agreement previously approved by council, we have prepared a resolution authorizing the village manager to authorize loan documents for payment requests and disbursements. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Some of you may recall that our original financing plan included the issuance of bonds, and then the IEPA came out with this low-interest loan program with interest carry costs substantially lower than we could achieve by borrowing the money ourselves. So this switch in our strategy represents a cost-saving measure to our residents.
And the relatively large disbursement at this time is just part of the plan that we put in place in terms of the physical assets, right?
Yes.
So next year is expected to be similar or back down?
Similar dollar amount next year.
Similar dollar amount. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, moving on.
Okay, Judy also handled item C in her presentation there, so now we'll move to items D, E, and F. They are 3 contracts for water main improvements. Here to present background information on these 3 items is our Public Works Director, Nan Newland.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Dave said, I have 3 items. We're going to bundle them together. Together they add up to over 2.5 miles of water main replacements throughout the village. The locations are chosen as a result of the age of the water main, the condition, our history of water main breaks, flow, improving water quality throughout the village, and as Judy said, part of a 5-year plan that we're using our loan money to pay for. So just to kick it off, we have Contract A is first. We did this in 3 contracts. Contract A and B are covered by the EPA loan agreement. This contract covers the areas on Wisconsin from Walnut to Belmont and on Northcott from Prairie to Warren. We did receive 4 bids for this contract. A-Lamp Contractors was the low bidder, as they were with Contract B, you'll see in a second. They have performed various contracts for the village, most recently including the 2018 contracts A and C, water main replacements. They've also gotten positive references in Winnetka, Deerfield, and Hoffman Estates. Contract B, as I said, A-Lamp was also the low bidder in this contract. This is on Jefferson Avenue between Dunham and Brookbank, on Almond Court from Downers to the cul-de-sac, and on Pomeroy from 35th to the cul-de-sac. They have the same references. It's the same contractor. A-Lamp was the low bidder. This amount was $1,598,100.24. And I neglected to say Contract A is the amount of $2,954,813.77. Moving on to Contract C, this is on Black Oak Drive from Saratoga to Highland, Wilcox from 38th to the cul-de-sac, and Brook Drive from Center Circle to Downers Drive. On this contract, we did receive 8 bidders. Austin Tyler Construction was the low bidder. They completed Contract B for the village in 2016 and 2018, as well as received positive recommendations from Lockport and Joliet. And we are recommending approval of these 3 contracts, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from the council? Marge, please.
Yeah, sorry I forgot to ask, but I pretty much just assumed that this was all going to be done in conjunction with other road work that's being done on these streets?
Yes.
Repaving and stuff? Because I know you usually bundle them, but I just neglected to ask that question and assumed, so I thought I would clarify that.
The contracts include roadway restoration where we're working on these streets.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thanks for pointing that out, Marge. For those watching at home, if you're new to our process, we do try and bundle things as much as possible. And so there are certain situations in town where streets are left go longer than might make sense, and specifically for the reason that we'd like to try and tear them up once instead of twice, if at all possible. So Marge highlights a good practice that we try and do as much as we can in the village. Thanks for bringing that up. Any other questions? Any questions from the audience on these? All right, thank you, Nan.
Thank you.
That's our first reading tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Sorry about that. Next on the agenda is the mayor's report. I am going to take liberties and move that to the end. I'm going to run with my colleagues on that. So, Dave, back to you for the manager's report.
Just a real quick information I shared with the council earlier today. The state over the weekend did pass a new state budget, which includes an operating budget and a capital budget. Some good news for the village of Downers Grove and municipalities throughout the state. First, for Downers Grove in the capital bill, we did receive an appropriation of $250,000 for some roadway improvements and some flood mitigation efforts. And for all municipalities in the state, there was accompanying the budget is a change in state law that would have the effect of increasing sales tax revenues for municipalities by changing the sales tax structure on certain online purchases. So we have a cursory understanding of how this law works and how it should benefit us. Now we're going to dive into it at the deep end, figure out exactly how those processes will work, and present more information, including estimated financial impacts during our long-range planning efforts starting later this month or next month. More to come on that item. Happy answering questions you may have. Otherwise, that'll end my report.
Dave, there's a expected, although not really sorted out, increase in income tax to the state. Do we expect an increase in LGDF as a result of that?
There was an increase in income tax. We do expect the revenues associated with income tax to be higher than previously thought, but only for 1 year.
Okay.
Judy did contact the state to work on our 2020 projections, and so it's good news for now, but they're basically telling us don't count on that as a trend. And we'll have more information on that during LRP as well.
Thank you. Okay, attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Only one item to present tonight, and that is an ordinance authorizing a loan agreement with the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency for the 2019 water main projects. It will be on next week's active agenda. That is all.
Thank you, Enzo. Council members report. Commissioner Earl.
No report, Mayor.
Commissioner Jose.
No report, Mayor, thank you.
Commissioner Cullivaney.
No report, Mayor.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit.
No report, Mayor.
I know we've got a report coming.
You guys know I always
Commissioner
have a report.
Wallace.
I have two
Let us
countdowns.
have it.
I have two countdowns. The first countdown, 16 days until Rotary Grove Fest. Don't listen to any weather reports, which have clearly been very inaccurate. It is going to be sunny, clear skies, no mosquitoes. It's going to be amazing. My next countdown is there are 10 days remaining until Ben's Memorial Mile. You can still register. I have finally registered with my family, so we are running the mile, and my two little ones are running the kids 100-meter dash, which is $5 to register, and then adults are $25. It is June 15th at Downers Grove North. So go to bensmemorialmile.com and get yourself registered. That is all, Mayor.
Fantastic. Counting on that weather.
That's right.
I have just one sort of good news announcement. There is an award called the Jeff Award. Joseph Jefferson Award, more commonly known as the Jeff, is given for theater arts in Chicago. Founded in 1968, the awards are named in tribute to actor Joseph Jefferson, a 19th century American theater star who was a player in Chicago's first theater company. Why would I be telling you that? Last night, Kelly Harrington, which is a Downers Grove native, won her third Chicago Jefferson Award. Third award as Best Performer in a Musical for the show Bridges of Madison County. The show itself won 4 of its 6 nominations, including Best Production for the season. That's a big deal in the world of theater, and it's awesome to have that associated with our community. If you see or know the Harringtons at all, be sure you give them congratulations. We congratulate Kelly on her awards. And that is all I have. We are not quite ready to adjourn because we are going to go to executive session and discuss a replacement to fill the empty seat at the end of the dais.
Mayor Barnett, I move that the council convene into closed session pursuant to Section 2C3 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act to consider the selection of a person to fill a village office which the village council is given the power to appoint under law.
Second.
April, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Earl? Aye. Commissioner Cullivaney?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye. We are adjourned to executive session. Thank you. Good night.